Welcome back everyone to my channel. This is me, Prem Kumar. In this video today, we're talking about skilled worker visa, employers change, or maybe job change within the same employer in a different department. Basically, what you need to do is you have to apply for a new certificate of sponsorship. You need to make sure you have switched your visa to a different employer, maybe different occupation code. So in this video, I will talk about each and everything in detail, including what's the process, what happens to your dependents, can you travel outside the UK, what happens to your prior access surcharge that you paid, and other complications as well in terms of notice periods, maybe clawback costs. So I'll be covering each and everything in this video. So I'll highly recommend if you want to change a job in the UK, especially with the changing requirements, changing immigration requirements in the UK. Stay tuned till the end of this video and I'll be giving each and everything in this video. Just to highlight two things before we get down to this video. Number one, immigration requirements are changing very fast in the UK. There has been a lot of push against immigration, low skilled labor in the UK, thereby a lot of requirements are changing. There was a change in terms of salary requirements and then skill level required. So make sure, whenever you find a new job that matches with the latest immigration requirements, latest eligibility requirements for skilled worker visa, otherwise you'll be in mess. So make sure that's the important one. And the second part is, of course, I'm not an immigration consultant. I'm not a legal advisor. This video, all the videos I made on skilled worker visa or generally visas in the UK are based on my personal experience, things I have been through, or from friends or maybe from independent research. So it's all about the guidance and just showing you the way. But of course, if you have any complications, make sure to reach out to the people who actually have this thing as their bread and butter, right? Their sort of income. So reach out to them if you have any legal complications. So changing jobs on skilled worker visa. Now there are a few important things I'll highlight first step by step in terms of eligibility. When you actually need to apply for a skilled worker visa update, right? Literally, so think of the scenarios. Number one, you're in a company, you just change a different department, your qualification is same, you have similar sort of role, it's just you change different teams. In that case, if your SOC code is exactly the same, for example, for me, I'm Chartered Certified Accountant, 2421 is the SOC code. I do not need to apply for a new certificate of sponsorship if I'm just changing different teams, but I'm going to do the exactly same role. I'm going to be sponsored by exactly the same role. I don't need to apply for any job. However, if you are going to a different role in the same company, maybe you were in an accounting role like me, and now you want to do maybe investor relations or maybe sort of media side of it, then you would need to apply for a different sort of visa and different sort of certificate of sponsorship to be issued for you. However, being in the same role, you don't need to. But of course, you switch to another employer, then you need to make sure you got a new certificate of sponsorship and, of course, a job offer and everything at the back of that. So hopefully that's clear. Now we'll just walk through the actual guidance from Home Office and actually the caseworker guidance as well. Then I'll be walking you through major points and then we'll go from there. So just want to Google and write skilled worker visa employer change. Click official website of government of UK. In the skilled worker visa, you have a section updated visa exchange or job or employer. Basically, it's valid for both job or employer. That's what we talked earlier. You'll need to update your skilled worker visa if you change your job and your job is a different employer. Of course, as we discussed, your job changes to different occupation code and you're not in a graduate program, as we discussed already. And then you leave a job that's on immigration salary list for a job that's not on the list. Now you need to make sure you apply for skilled worker visa if you change the job by yourself. However, it stays down here, if government has done some action whereby they have revised the immigration salary list, you do not need to do anything, right? It's something you have already been given permission for to say in UK. You do not need to do anything, do not need to apply. What you need to do is when your visa is expiring, you need to make sure you are applying to the right level of visa for your continuity in the UK. Otherwise, you will have a mess up situation. But you do not need to do anything if government has changed the immigration salary list, and that's based on current guidance. If you'll be doing a different job for current employer, you need to update your code if the job is different to discuss. And then if your new occupation is listed medium skill, you can update your visa if both are falling apply. Now, this is really important, something that happened in July that, the classification of medium skilled, high skilled, and of course, no skilled really. So you need to make sure in terms of timelines, if your certificate of sponsorship or actual visa was issued before 22nd of July 2025, you can apply for medium skilled. And however, in the future, you need to be highly skilled basically for the new visas. The same time, you partially need to apply separately, and then we'll discuss about that in proper details. This section also talks about fees as well. What type of fees, we'll talk about that in detail. And eligibility, in terms of the eligibility and documents you need to apply. The things you need to make sure is you need to each and everything, salary, eligibility, and you may need to provide other evidence if you have been doing it for less than 1 year, maintenance, all these things. We'll talk about that in detail. And then, of course, we're not going to go through this section adding another job. So important thing is you need to apply for a job switch or maybe update your visa basically once you have a change of employer, or you need to change jobs in the same employer but of a different SOC code. The other complications around immigration salary list, short occupation list, you can of course walk through them if your job is in those situations, those scenarios. But for this video, we'll keep it very, very simple. So what happens basically is in terms of timelines, if you're doing your current job very well, now you are switching an employer, you want to go to another employer, you want a better opportunity. What you need to make sure is number one, you need to make sure you grab an offer from them and need to make sure you are new employer actually has a sponsor license, right? They cannot issue a COS without a sponsor license. So you grab a new job, your new employer has a sponsor license, and then they are able to issue you a sponsor certificate of sponsorship as well. So that's the basic thing. After that, in UK, you most likely have a notice period of like 1, 2, 3 months generally. Now you need to make sure you work through that very well. What happens is sometimes you can say, you apply for a new job, you got the offer, you resign from your current job, and you're just waiting for your COS. That's not the ideal situation. The other extreme can be, and which is something people do generally, is they got the COS, they got a new job, and now after that, once the visa is issued, now you actually can see your notice period to your current employer. That's 1, 2, 3 months. But what happens is once you get your new visa, you have 3 months basically to join your new employer. So there's a 3 months timeline in terms of you can be working with your current employer, notice period, even though you have been issued a new COS. So there's a 3 month a margin, 3 month grace period there. So you need to make sure you time your notice period, you exit very well, that you are working with a new employer and you manage to your notice period, and you do not have that risk of being laid off. What can happen is you resign from your current employer and then you apply to your new visa and then that got rejected. It can happen. And in that case, you would not have anything at hand, right? So make sure you could work through that. But in terms of the actual process, what you need to do is just apply normally. The visa application just requires to make sure you have a passport, e-visa, old BRPs if you got any of them, and you need to provide documents like new certificate of sponsorship, maybe upload your old documents like certificate of English that you would have gotten initially, maybe your old tuberculosis TB results, and other similar document. At the same time, if you are switching visa within 1 year of coming to the UK, you would need to provide some other documents as well written on the website. So that's the important bit here. In terms of the visa itself, it's very normal. It's normal priority, super priority. If you are not in urgency, you can go for normal visa. Just depends on at what time of the year you're applying. And otherwise, you can go for a priority, which is like 5 working days priority. 1 working day, you can apply for those sort of visas. Of course, there is cost. In terms of cost of application, you would know already if you have done a skilled worker visa, they've got an application fee and you got IHS surcharge. So you need to pay that fully for 3 years. Again, if your COS is for 3 years. Now, at the same time, there's an important point here in terms of the IHS surcharges that you paid for your earlier visa. For example, you came to UK around 2 years, 2 months, for example. You're going to go for a new employer now. You are still left with 10 months worth of your IHS surcharge in your current visa because in the new visa, you have to pay complete full amount for 3 years. So what happens is for that 10 months, Home Office looks at 6 months period generally. What happens is for the 10 months, you will be paid refund for NHS surcharge, IHS surcharge for 6 months period, and that will go on to your actual card where you paid initially. So you need to think of that sort of refund as well. You won't get for 10 months, but you'll get for 6 months. If your visa was like 13 months, then you get for 12 months, so 6 months period. So that's an important point in terms of visa. I just surcharge refund as well. Coming back to the application, once you have all the documents and everything, you sorted your notice period, everything. What happens is after you apply online, which is quite easy, and you can see my old videos on my channel in terms of how the application process generally works. What you need to do is you need to go for a biometric. Before that, you need to upload all the documents in the system, so you don't need to carry any hard documentation, hard files at all. You just upload everything. You go for biometric either, or maybe you will be given an option to apply for UK ID. Basically, it's a digital app from government UK website. You can just upload there. You don't even need to go for biometric. So that's another option. That's another possibility. After that, the result will come after the biometric appointment. Depends on the sort of service you got, standard, priority, super priority. That will be very easy. And once you got your new visa, then you can work with your new sponsor, new employer as well. So that's all about the process. Just in terms of highlighting one important thing here, and that's something you should read is how your casework at Home Office looks at the application. For example, if you write here skilled worker visa, Home Office, caseworker guidance, then you will see a guidance from for them actually to work through how to look after the applications and how to arrive on decision. So you go here and then you can read each and everything here in terms of sponsorship, in terms of eligibility, in terms of everything. It's written, everything is written here. You must read that relevant bits here. All right, so this is literally all about the process. Now we talk about visas, we talk about notice periods, we talk about refunds. The other important bit is your travel, right? Once you are in the process of changing the visa, you are not allowed to leave the country. If you leave the country, your visa will be withdrawn and you are not able to come to the country at all. Right? So make sure you do not travel out of the country while your visa is in progress. It's deemed drawn. that you wanted to apply and then you left the country. So they assume that you no longer want to apply for this visa. So they assume that you do not need to travel after the country at all. So very, very important bit here. The other important bit is the dependents, because once you change your employer, your visa, you basically have a new visa, new expiry date. At the same time, your dependents have to apply for new visa as well. They cannot continue on the old visa. They have to apply for new visa. The new visa will be again linked with your existing new visa as well. So make sure to apply for dependents as well. Two other important things just to highlight in terms of visa and process is number one, IELTS, right? If you came to UK, you do not need to do IELTS again. You can just use the same copy of your IELTS and upload that in the visa application. It should be good to go. You don't need to do that again. And second important thing, which actually not the visa linked, but most likely in terms of employment and when you change jobs. So just want to highlight that as well. What happens is most of the employers, when they hire you from abroad, they give you relocation allowance, maybe some sort of tickets to come to UK, or maybe hotel costs if they're staying you somewhere for a couple of weeks before you actually get your place. So those costs can be clawed back very easily by employer. It's written in the contract. If you're leaving in maybe 1 year, you may be paying like 50% of them. Maybe if you're leaving in 2 years, you may be paying 25, 30%. It just works like that, like for most employers. What will happen is you need to make sure you think of those things as well before switching the visa and working with a new employer as well on in terms of those clawback costs. So that's not a visa thing, but a part of job switch and how clawback costs work, because that can have implications on your finances generally. So that's probably all in this video. There's nothing else in terms of visa and job switch on skilled worker visa. It's just like the requirements are getting very, very tight as we speak. Immigration reforms are coming, and there's a lot of challenges on skilled work visa, dates, interviews, and all those things. But the important thing is when you actually switch the visa, make sure you find an employer that's hiring highly skilled people. You are of highly skilled profile in the future, and you find an employer who can actually issue a certificate of sponsorship, and then you go from there. That's all this video. Hopefully it's helpful. If there are any questions, any queries, just drop them in the comments. I'll respond them as soon as possible. And the Do It Immigration playlist on my YouTube channel is really wonderful source to get started. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for watching.